Hi, in this video I'm going to go over nutraceuticals that I've helped formulate for Apex Energetics, and these are supplements that I actually use in my practice. So these supplements are not used to treat any condition. They're just there to provide nutritional support for different mechanisms that are involved in improving health and physiology. Now, in the infertility course, we went over a section on nutraceutical applications, and then we broke it down into three parts: nutraceuticals for fundamental mechanisms of fertility, and those main areas were essential fatty acids, blood sugar stability, hepatic biotransformation, and microbiome modulation. So let's go over those key things first, and starting with essential fatty acids. As you remember, essential fatty acids are really important for every aspect of reproductive physiology and prenatal care, and even postpartum care, and for healthy amounts of fatty acids in breast milk when the mother's nursing. So essential fatty acids are one of the most important foundations for developmental nutrition. So we really want to make sure this is important, and also we know that essential fatty acids are really critical for a healthy sperm function. We went over all those research studies in the course itself. So as you remember, one of the key things is that you're trying to always optimize the balance of omega-6 and omega-3 oils. Arachidonic acid is very pro-inflammatory, so if someone is eating high amounts of animal fat and processed foods and shellfish, they tend to produce more PGE2s. And the counteraction to that is to really control insulin levels. Insulin levels push omega-6s into arachidonic acid, but really just to get a diverse source of fatty acids. Now, fatty acids are going to be a combination of things that people eat. For example, olive oil would be a really good source of fatty acids. And then just a diet that's really rich in fatty acids, like egg yolks and nuts and seeds, would be an ideal source. And even fish and organ meats would be a good source of essential fatty acids. And we have the gamma-linolenic acid, which is evening primrose oil. We have the essential fatty acid here, flaxseed oil and grapeseed oil, and then eventually we have EPA and DHA down here. So the products that I like to use is a product called Omega-Co3. And Omega-Co3 is really a fantastic product which has EPA, DHA, and GLA. So when you're looking at the pathways here, we have EPA, DHA, and GLA. It's really providing a rich source of these diverse omega-3 and omega-6 supplements. And then if you look here, you'll see vitamin E, niacin, B6, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and molybdenum. And those are important because the pathways from these saturates and the longest enzymes to convert these fatty acids into prostaglandins require certain nutritional cofactors. So the nutritional cofactors to convert fatty acids into prostaglandins are all formulated in this product here, in addition to really good and rich sources of EPA, DHA, and GLA. So this is a product that is available in either a capsule form or in a liquid form. Some patients prefer taking capsules because they travel. Some prefer just to have the liquid form. I think the liquid form without the capsule has really good absorption. And the capsule just has it just has a little bit of a delayed effect. So it really depends what the person's preference are, but they're still going to have an effect no matter how they're delivered. The other essential fatty acid that I like to use to get a diversity is a product in addition to Omega-Co3 called Super-FA complex. And Super-FA complex has ALA and GLA and taurine, and then all the essential cofactors to really help push that essential fatty acid pathway. And if you look at a pure alpha-linolenic acid, it's one of the key essential fatty acids, and we really has some pathways here with omega-3 and some pathways here with omega-6. And the combination of taking Omega-Co3 with Super-FA complex provides a really rich source of essential fatty acids that really support the omega-6 and omega-3 pathway. And if that's taken in conjunction with eating foods like really high in avocado oil, like avocado oil, olive oil, egg yolks, if they can, nuts and seeds, that would be great. The other thing I like to use is a product called Brain E DHA. So I'll actually, if I really want to give a really diverse, rich source of essential fatty acids, I'll use the Omega-Co3, the Super-FA complex, and the Brain E. And the Brain E contains high amounts of DHA and phosphatidylcholine, and these are essential for neurodevelopment. And I think these would be a really good idea for mothers that are nursing. Now remember, breast milk doesn't contain essential fatty acids. unless the mother's consuming them on a regular basis. And there's been multiple studies now published in the literature where they look at mercury levels of fish oils, and they find that there's virtually none or very, very little, if any, in commercial products that are being tested. And Apex really makes sure that they source the small fishes which are not carrying mercury in their fish oil-based products. Now, the spray DHA complex is a liquid, but it's also available in capsule. And there's also another version, which is a plankton source. And with the plankton source, you get much, much higher amounts of DHA. So if you're really trying to get the highest amount of DHA to really improve cognitive function, you can use the PhytoBrainy. So for the most part, when I look at essential fatty acid, it's omega-CoA3, which provides a rich source of fish oils and also some GLA, in combination with Super EFA complex, and then in combination with one source of the brainy, whether that's a liquid or the capsule or the plankton source. And if you have those three products, you would really be covering this entire spectrum of fatty acids to some degree when it gets converted to prostaglandins. And now with a diet healthy in fats, good fats would be beneficial. Now, the other key thing we talked about in the course were in essential pathways, there are pathways for hepatic biotransformation, especially if you're doing pre-fertility types of workups, preconception types of workouts, where you're trying to really look at removing maybe high levels of pesticides or environmental chemicals if you found with some type of laboratory test. I like to use this product here. It's called Clearvite. Clearvite is a product that's really formulated to support phase 1 and phase 2 biotransformation. And when you look at pathways like methylation, acetylation, glucuronation, sulfation, they have certain nutrient requirements and certain amino acid requirements, and then certain botanicals can really upregulate those, and those are all formulated into this product here. And then I like to use that if I'm being aggressive with a combination, a product called Hepatosynergy. And Hepatosynergy is a packet that contains one capsule of a product Apex has called Metacrin DX, which helps support biotransformation pathways, botanical. Biolamine, which is a herbal product that helps support bile function, methylation support, and products to help with glutathione. And the combination of Hepatosynergy and Clearvite really provide a very, very, very rich source of pathways to support phase 1, phase 2. So, there could be a period of time in my practice where I'll have a patient just do a protocol for about 30 days to really support biotransformation pathways, to just really kind of clear any, optimize their liver to clear any kind of compounds that they may be dealing with. And if I'm seeing a patient that has, let's say, high amounts of urinary glyphosates or has high amounts of any kind of urinary pesticides or environmental compounds, and I want to try to optimize their biotransformation pathway, then I would use the protocol with Clearvite and with Hepatosynergy. And then when it comes to microbiome modulation of infertility, we know the microbiome is really important because microbiome helps metabolize hormones, it helps with biotransformation of hormones, it helps convert some hormones to an active state, and also helps regulate blood sugar levels. And in the course we talked about how important it is to use short-chain fatty acids and fibers to really diversify the gut bacteria. Short-chain fatty acids provide fuel and also to help modulate the gastrointestinal immune system. And the products I like to use that contain short-chain fatty acids and fibers are a product called Enterovite. So Enterovite basically has butyric acid, propionate, and then we have some acetate as well. So you get all three substrates of short-chain fatty acids to help support fuel and nutrients for the gut. And I like this product called Fibermin, which contains guar gum, pectins, flaxseed, and cellulose, which then are insoluble fibers that can really help support healthy microbiome nutrition. You can also get a little bit more detailed if you want. You can add a really good probiotic. C-Biotica is a really good probiotic that has these different strains of beneficial bacteria. And then Strengthy is another probiotic that has Saccharomyces boulardii and DDS1 strains. And these types of probiotics don't need to be refrigerated. And one capsule is shown to have about 30 billion friendly organisms, which is incredible. So those are things that we'll use, and if I feel like they have some intestinal permeability, if they have some food reactions, and they may have some issues with the leaky gut, I may provide some nutrient support called Repairvite to help support the lining of their gut. Some of these things you may use in combination. You may use at different times in your workup. It really depends on what your goals are. Not every patient is going to need microbiome support. Some patients will need it more than others based on their diet and health, but those are the things that I use. So the main things about as far as hepatic biotransformation and essential fatty acids and microbiome we just covered, but blood sugar stability I'm going to talk a little bit more when we talk about PCOS. And then as we move on to nutritional support for various mechanisms, one of the key things is nutritional support to help improve sperm health. And we know that things like botanicals like tribulus can be useful, antioxidants can be useful, nutrients and other nutraceuticals based on some of the studies I showed. So in my practice, I'll use things like Opticrine. Opticrine is a product that has tribulus extract in there, and tribulus has been shown to have some effect on activating LH in males, which is really significant because LH has an impact on turning on Leydig cells, and maca extract is also, and zinc have also been shown to be good botanicals to support male reproductive pathways and vitality, and then Asian ginseng as well. And then glutathione recycler has L-glutamine, alpha-lipoic acid, and L-cysteine and substrates to really help with glutathione management. And then for some men that are overweight and may have some insulin resistance, I'd like to have them use this product called Testanex, which is a chrysin cream. It's some natural compounds that have been shown to have some ability to slow down aromatization of conversion of testosterone to estrogens. So a lot of males that are overweight, they tend to have their aromatase enzymes overactive, and they have the ability to convert testosterone to estrogen. So I'll have them rub this into their body fat. I'll have them take the Opticrine, glutathione, and then I'll have them take some really good quality glutathione in a liposomal form. I think Apex's trisomal glutathione is probably one of the best that's out there. It has N-acetylcysteine, it has L-glutathione, in addition to acetylglutathione, all in a liposomal form, stabilized in phosphatidylcholine, which really is just a fantastic product. So for people that, for males that we're trying to provide a nutritional protocol to support all the various key essential nutrients, I'll typically use Opticrine, glutathione recycler, Testanex, trisomal glutathione. You can try other things, other types of antioxidants as well, like resveratrol, like resveratrol, turmeric, like turmeric, but it really depends on what your clinical goals are. Then another common condition that impacts infertility is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And with PCOS, we know we're really dealing with insulin resistance issues, where insulin surges are really up-regulating 1720 lyase in the thecal cells of the ovaries, and that really causes increased androgens. Those increased androgens cause insulin resistance, and you get this vicious cycle that takes place. And nutraceuticals to really support PCOS patterns. We talked about the literature, what's been published. This is just some general guidelines. And these nutritional protocols are basically just providing natural compounds that have been shown to impact insulin receptor site resistance, and then in some of the clinical trials, they seem to have some impact on controlling blood sugar mechanisms. But it's not like that these nutraceuticals are there to treat the disease. These nutraceuticals are just there to optimize the physiology of blood sugar and insulin resistance. And we went over and when clinical trials have used them, they've shown to really have an impact on physiology and health. So with these protocols here for PCOS, whoops, let me go back here. We also talked about in the diabetes glycemic control of, like, when you're really looking at insulin resistance, you're really trying to look at this integrated loop between AMPK and sirtuin modulation and insulin receptor sites and so forth. And we didn't really get a chance to get too much of that into the infertility course that was really focused on the diabetes glycemia course. But within that, we know that when we look at nutritional and lifestyle support to modulate insulin resistance pathways, Lifestyle factors like vigorous exercise, caloric restriction, or intermittent fasting have been shown to activate AMPK, which modulates insulin receptor site function. And nutraceuticals published in the literature that have been shown to have those effects are things like alpha-lipoic acid, burdock root, rose hips, and berberine. So, of these compounds, berberine, resveratrol, turmeric seem to have the greatest amount of evidence in the literature, and then these other natural compounds can also be very beneficial in supporting AMPK as well. So I like to use a product called glycoberine, which has the berberine compound. It's a very good source. Or if I want to be a little bit more aggressive and give a more diverse AMPK pathways, I'll use glycoberine MX, which in addition to berberine, which is a very powerful natural AMPK modulator, has burdock extract, alpha-lipoic acid, and rose hips. So if you just want to use berberine, you can use glycoberine active. If you want to really try to get a whole host of synergistic AMPK modulators, then the glycoberine MX would be the one to use. Typically, I'll start with the glycoberine MX and have a list of modulators. And if that's really just causing them to have their insulin levels to be overtreated and they feel like they're getting low blood sugar symptoms, I'll probably just switch to a berberine compound without all the other AMPK stimulators. You'll have to experiment sometimes and see what works best for your patients. And then sirtuin modulation, the key thing with sirtuins, which modulate insulin receptors and which becomes a really critical pathway to optimize physiological function of in patients that have insulin resistance and PCOS type patterns, is resveratrol, specifically trans-resveratrol. So I like to use Resveratrol Active, which is a very, very good liquid liposomal form of trans-resveratrol, which is very well tolerated and very well digested and is a really good source. For people that travel or don't like to take liquids, they also have a version of that in a capsule form. So those are things associated with the sirtuin pathways, and then the other things that can be used to just provide nutritional support for insulin signaling pathways. The key nutrients are the following on this chart that we went over in the course. These have all play a role in the nutritional cofactor pathways of insulin signaling, and then we're going to try to provide nutritional support for blood sugar physiology. I like to also use a product called glycine. So for some people, you might be supporting their microbe for a period of time. For some people, you just really focus on their blood sugar issues. For some people, you might want to do hepatic biotransformation before you jump into any other protocols, maybe for a few weeks. And those are things that you may want to consider. Now, there's botanicals that also impact blood sugar insulin pathways, and those are in a product called protoglycine. And sometimes for some patients, you need to use a whole host of different nutraceuticals to get the effect. Sometimes you need to give them AMPK modulating compounds and provide them with nutrients that help support the insulin pathways, and maybe even botanicals to really support their pathways. And protoglycine is a really good way to provide those botanical supports. And if you want to kind of just put them all together, Apex has a really easy way to do that for patients, where they can take a product called Glycine Synergy, and Glycine Synergy has one capsule of glycine, one capsule of adaptocrine, one capsule of a product called Fibromin, and one capsule of something called protoglycine that provides a rich source of nutrients. So a lot of times if you have a patient take one or two packets of Glycine Synergy, they'll feel, in many cases, that their blood sugar stability is functioning a little bit better. They won't get as tired as normal. They just may have better vitality when their nutritional status is improved. And sometimes it's a good idea if they have a significant amount of insulin resistance issues to use the Glycine Synergy with glycoberine MX. So one packet of that and one capsule. You have to experiment and kind of see which strategies work, but these are different formulations that support blood sugar handling pathways. Then we talked about patients that have like hypoglycemic patterns and blood sugar spikes or roller coaster rides, and Apex is a really good powdered formula that I like to use in my practice when I have patients that are playing this roller coaster ride and they're fluctuating all the time. And this compound has branched chain amino acids, pea protein, so you got to make sure they can tolerate pee, they don't have any lectin sensitivity issues, and plant sterols. And those compounds are important for just helping blood sugar levels stabilize throughout the day. And they branched chain amino acids help with gluconeogenesis, conversion pathways, and these other vitamins and minerals are critical for pathways that involving insulin signaling and blood sugar support. And then when we talk about diets for uterine fibroids, we know that uterine fibroids are really mostly genetically influenced and hormonal influence. There's very little research that really shows that nutraceuticals have a significant impact on uterine fibroids. There's just a couple of animal studies that have shown some benefits potentially impacting further uterine growth development with green tea extract, vitamin D, and resveratrol. And there's a product that is called Neuroflam, which I helped formulate for Apex to provide the flavonoids that have been published that have an ability to have an influence on microglial cells when that's important for neuroinflammatory responses. But it contains green tea extract and curcuminoids and resveratrol and apigenin and luteolin, which may be important for uterine fibroids signaling pathways through a nutraceutical approach. However, you would never expect to see a uterine fibroid treated with something like Neuroflam or any kind of nutraceuticals. The only thing we know is that the studies show that there's the theory that some of these nutrient compounds may have a ability to potentially slow down the physiology of these mechanisms, but it's not used as the treatment of any kind, and you would never expect to see it reverse with a nutraceutical approach. Then when we talk about endometriosis, we know that the peritoneal fluid is really inflamed, and with endometriosis, we talked about how important it is to have fatty acid balances, high amounts of antioxidants, and fat-soluble vitamins and B vitamins. So for patterns of endometriosis, based on what's published literature, a very good diet of essential fatty acids is important. So it goes back to the main essential fatty acids I like to use. Omega-CoA3 either in a capsule, product, or liquid, and then mixed with super EFA complex, and then mixed with one of the versions of Brain E, which has high amounts of DHA, whether it's the liquid version, whether it's the capsule version, or whether it's the plankton version that has much higher of DHA in a plankton form. And then in addition to that, with endometriosis, since it's such an inflammatory response, I like to use resveratrol. Resvero XL Active is, again, the liposomal transresveratrol, and that also can be used in a capsule version versus liquid bottle version. So Resvero SC is the capsule version of that. And then turmeric is also really critical, which is systemic inflammation, and I like to use high amounts of antioxidants with patients suffering from inflammatory conditions such as endometriosis. And turmeric active has high amounts of curcuminoids that are very helpful in blocking some inflammatory known mechanisms, and this can be done in a liquid or in a capsule version, whichever is easiest. And then probably one of the most important antioxidants is glutathione when we're looking at endometriosis-based pathways. So I like to use the trisomal glutathione to really provide these high sources of antioxidants and nutrients to improve their physiology. And then we talked about some nutraceuticals support pituitary pathways, and we talked about tribulus. And tribulus in males seems to increase LH and testosterone, and in females it appears to activate FSH, which may help with estradiol activity. And then those tribulus, a really high source of tribulus product with ginseng and zinc we talked about earlier for sperm health through the activation of LH and testosterone. Theoretically, that may be how it's working. Is a product called Opticrun. And then if I'm really trying to activate LH pathways, Vitex or chasteberry has been shown in some studies in females to help increase LH and progesterone output. But Vitex in males really shuts down LH and testosterone. And the monk used to take chasteberry to calm down their libido, but it seems to have an opposite effect in males versus females. So if I'm trying to support healthy luteal phase function, if I have a female that has low LH or low progesterone activity, then I like to really use this product called Progestate. And this has high amounts of chasteberry, 200 milligrams per capsule, and then shepherd's purse. So the combination of both of those seem to be a good way to support FSH and LH pathways, the optocrine and Progestate taken together. And they don't have to be taken at any time of the cycle. They're just taken throughout the month, every day, until you see if there's any influence of botanicals on their physiology. And then when you look at estrogen pathways, we know that estradiol, there's 3 different estrogens: estradiol, which is E2, estrone, which is E1. And then when we look at these physiology pathways here, we know that these estrogens get metabolized by methylation pathways, and then estrogens have an ability to bind to receptor sites. And then there's compounds that really impact this pathway that involve things like selective estrogen receptor modulators. Selective estrogen receptor modulators have the ability to increase or decrease the activity of estrogen receptor sites. These are the natural known botanicals and compounds that do that. And then when you look at the metabolism of estrogens by the liver and even by the microbiome to healthy estrogen metabolites, we know things like indole-3 carbinol or DIM have been shown to do that. And then when you really look at methylation pathway, these are the compounds that help with methylation. So if I'm trying to optimize LH and estradiol output, from a nutraceutical botanical model, I'll try to use something like optocrine. If I want to provide them a rich source of natural estrogen receptor modulators, this product, Estravite, has black cohosh, donquai, indole-3 carbinol, genistein to adenosine, 5-methyltetrahydrofolate, B6, red clover, and that seems to be a really good combination of natural estrogen receptor modulators. And then to support methylation pathways that are critical to metabolize estrogens, I'll use a product called Methyl SP. And then as moving on to adrenal support, with adrenal stress responses, we know that has an impact on reproductive physiology. And adaptogens can be very useful for dealing with stress, as well as phosphatidylserine. My favorite adaptogen product is adaptocrine, as a combination of different herbal adaptogens. And when you look at how botanicals work, sometimes when they're all formulated together, you get an increased synergistic effect, which I really think is happening with this product, versus just taking any one of these nutrients individually. So if there's a stress response mechanism that I want trying to provide some type of nutraceutical support in an adaptogen model, I like to use this product called adaptocrine. And then eventually, when we get into this sheet here, which was a recommendation of various things to do in the prenatal stage or pregnancy stage or maternal recovery while breastfeeding, is to provide them with a rich source of essential fatty acids, lots of microbiome support, immune support like vitamin A, D, E, K, and then antioxidants, and then some kind of multivitamin. So these are the products I'll use when I'm trying to give prenatal nutritional support, also provide nutrients during pregnancy, also provide the mother with healthy amounts of nutrients while they're breastfeeding. I like to use this product called ADEK, and ADEK is just a very good fat-soluble vitamin, multivitamin, that has very good quality of beta-carotene and retinol, vitamin D, mixed tocopherols, lots of different vitamin E's mixed together, and then mixed combinations of vitamin K. And, I think you really need to have higher intake of fat-soluble vitamins than most typical multivitamins, and this provides a really good way to get healthy amounts of these essential fat-soluble vitamins during those developmental prenatal stages. Now, I like to use Clairvite GL in my patients when I'm trying to give them a multi-nutrient support. Even though we use this for hepatic biotransformation, it's just loaded with so many essential minerals and amino acids, medium-chain triglycerides, that I like to actually use this scoop of this every day when my patients are breastfeeding, and even prenatally, and even during their pregnancy, to just really support not only the biotransformation pathways, but really to provide them rich sources of minerals and vitamins, and people really feel great. And then same thing, I like to use the diverse list of the 3 products that really hit all of these essential fatty acids pathways. Omega-CoA3 as either a capsule or liquid, Super EFA complex that's only available in a liquid version, and then Brain E, the high amounts of DHA, either as a liquid, a capsule version, or a plankton version. The plankton version is a little bit more expensive. Unless you're really trying to go with high amounts of DHA, or you have patients that really only want a vegetarian source, then you can use the Phyto Brain E. I really think just the regular Brain E, either in a capsule or liquid form, will be just great. But there is a plankton version if you're interested in that. And then supporting the microbiome is critical during all aspects of the model of preconception, during pregnancy, and then postpartum. And short chain fatty acids are found in this product. Butyrate, acetate, propionate are all ingredients in there. And then fibromin is a rich source of fiber. Pectin, guar gum, flaxseed. As you know, fibers help make our prebiotics. They help support diversity of the microbiome. And then additionally, you can take things like probiotic versions. Apex has 2 really good versions, Cbiotica and Stringthia, which have really good source of healthy probiotics. And then if you feel like there needs to be some intestinal repair support and just to improve their support for their intestinal lining, zinc, amylase, short chain fatty acids, high amounts of L-glutamine, which is also good for the immune system, can be used. And then just really providing a rich source of antioxidants like resveratrol, either in a liquid or capsule form like Resveratrol Active, or turmeric in a high-rich emulsified liposomal form of curcuminoids like Active in a capsule or liquid form, can be very good in combination with trisomal glutathione. So this protocol is really a combination of all these products. So at the end of the day, you got to figure out like what your patient's budgets are, what their goals are. With fatty acids, if they can take the Super EFA and Omega-CoA3 as at least the minimum, that would be great. If they can add in the Brain E, even better. But it's also important for them to really consume high amounts of olive oil, avocado oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil, butter, eggs, nuts, seeds during their pregnancy and postpartum periods while they're breastfeeding to really provide these essential nutrients. Supporting the microbiome with enterovite and fibromin could be a good idea, but they still really need to eat a diverse list of vegetables and fermented foods. Fat-soluble vitamins, critical A, D, and K for healthy health. Multi-minerals, I like to use the Clearvite myself because it just blows away most multis and provides much better support when you look at the big picture of also supporting bad transformation and the gut in combination with a multi. And as far as antioxidants go, if you only could pick one, I would pick the trisomal glutathione. If you could pick more, I would add in the Resveratrol Active and Turmeric Active, and then a diet very high in superfoods. So those are the main nutraceuticals that I use in my practice to cover some of the specific compounds that we talked about in the literature. And I hope you find this information useful, and thank you for your attention.